Welcome to Occupy Crime Scene Investigation, Wall Street Walking Tours. We're going to be doing a walking tour of Wall Street, talking about the 2008 economic collapse of the U.S. economy, why Occupy Wall Street started, and also its connection to the slave trade, and how slaves were sold and were the first commodities on Wall Street, which unfortunately a lot of these people don't realize. This bull represents a lot of things for a lot of people, but not always in a great way. Occupy Wall Street was started, of course, as a protest on September 17th. This was one of the locations where they thought about occupying, but they decided not to. We also were going to occupy One Chase Plaza, but we couldn't do that because it got walled off and barricaded off. So we ended up at Zuccotti Park. This is our first stop. Our next stop will be at Bank of America. We're going to talk about the malfeasance of Bank of America, and then we're going to go down Wall Street and talk about the banks and the other financial institutions that are part of the Great Recession in America and around the world. Hi, good afternoon, Guru and Occupy. This is Sumumba from Occu-Evolve and Occupy Wall Street. This is our second Saturday tour of entitled Occupy Crime Scene, Occupy CSI, Wall Street Walking Tours. Today we're going to explore the banks that played a big role in our financial collapse in 2008. We're going to talk about how the banking industry and financial industry is connected to the slave trade. Originally, we're going to talk a little bit about the role that Trinity also played in slavery, as well as Morgan Chase, which we didn't cover last week. We're also going to explore the African burial ground and also talk about a little bit more of the city history that was involved also in the slave trade originally, and also talk a little bit about some of the boundaries of New York that have changed over the years. Back in the 1600s, the water from the Hudson River and came all the way up basically to this street. And a lot of people don't understand or realize that. And also, we're going to talk a little bit about how this is such a tourist attraction, but these people don't realize that, their countries are affected by what happens on Wall Street. Their economies are affected by what happens on Wall Street. And we're going to talk about the tremendous greed that was connected to the housing meltdown, subprime mortgages, CDOs, and other things that were involved with the financial industry and collapse. And also what gave birth to Occupy Wall Street, how it started, how it evolved, some of its meeting places. So we're looking for, this should be a very interesting day. And we're going to have a lot of fun, get a lot of information out. And I'm really excited that we're going to continue to do these tours and explore even more financial institutions that were part of the crime that happened in 2008 when our economy crashed and burned.
Can you talk a little bit about the bull?
The bull is, from what I understand, symbolizes the stock market, the bull market, and that's what I know, to be honest with you. As far as I know, it's a symbol of Wall Street. A lot of people come take pictures of it, not even realize the significance of actually what it means.
Can you talk about the bull in relation to Occupy?
Well, there's some history around the bull. One of the places that we wanted to occupy when we started Occupy Wall Street was the bull. But, a couple people got on top, took some pictures. Some people were here for a little while we were looking for a place to occupy, because we weren't able to actually occupy Wall Street. This was one of the locations we had thought about. Also Battery Park City. But when they, kind of barricaded this off, we weren't able to do that. You have to also realize that in the beginning, it wasn't like thousands of people out here. It was just, a handful of people, and then it kind of grew and developed. And that's a little bit more about Zuccotti and OWS. It really started out as it was called New Yorkers against budget cuts. It wasn't the NYCGA at first, but then David Graeber and some others decided that making demands wasn't enough, And so this is where the development of Occupy Wall Street came from, in terms of our internal structures, working groups, the General Assemblies, and eventually the Spokes Council. So it's a very, very interesting history, and this was one place that we were going to try to occupy, but it really, you couldn't really occupy this anyway in terms of setting up tents and having like a living occupation. So the symbol of the bull, based on the call by Adbusters to do an occupation of Wall Street. Two individuals, Micah White and Callie Lawson, made the call for that. But there's a very famous picture of a ballerina on top of the bull, dancing in kind of like a pirouette, and so that became a symbol for Occupy Wall Street on September 17th.
Why did they pick the bull?
They picked the bull because it symbolized everything that was wrong with the financial system in this country, with all the power being, in the control of basically like 8 banks. And I don't know if people realize this, but the big banks in America, 8 of the banks. The top 8 banks in America own 56% of the total economy of the United States of America. And back in 1970, I believe that number was more like 17%, but now it's up to 56%. So we really need to start talking about that. And these banks have all of this wealth, yet they're also getting all of this money back in TANF funds and support from the government. So those are things that we have to talk about. And on top of that, banks like Bank of America are also laying off people, like 36,000 people in this year alone. Bank of America is like the first stop. Bank of America is the first stop on our tour, basically because of the proximity to the bull.